Hello YouTube. It is so cold out here, 19 degrees, but we got cars to work on. So let me tell you a little about this situation. 350Z 05 had an overheating issue, had a busted radiator, fixed the radiator, fixed a thermostat housing unit, and I thought I had bled the system appropriately, but turns out I did not. I don't know much about these Z's, but they have a specific way to bleed them. They have a bleeder valve, and I bled it a little bit, but we're going to go ahead and top it off with more coolant and bleed it a little more if it needs. So we're going to start with popping the trunk. Get this hood open. Alright. So, radiator, as most people know, is going to be down here. This is the cooling fan. Radiator's right here. To get to the thermostat housing, I had to take this off, and it's right down there. I can't really get a good shot, but I can post a picture of it. The bleeder valve. Take this off for a second. I'll show you. It's right there. You take a little screw, preferably a bigger Phillips. If you do a small one, you might strip it out, but they say always move it before you get the engine warm so it doesn't lock up on you. So that's what we're going to be doing. But first, we're going to see if the coolant needs topped off. This is where you put your coolant in. And nothing's in there. So let's top it off. Right here, I got some Prestone. All vehicles, makes, miles, and years. Coolant. That's what I've been filling it with. So I have here funnel. I can't put it directly in there like this. I gotta off center it so it flows nicely. It likes to bubble up really quick. Oh man. Guess we lost a lot of coolant when we bled it. Either that or it has a leak. But really hope that's not the case. Put all this stuff back on. Now, get it nice and warm. We're gonna need that pressure to bleed. So to reiterate what it was doing, put the radiator in, thermostat housing, didn't bleed it right, got it started. Temperature gauge, it was getting hot, but it wasn't quite overheating, and it was kind of going back and forth between like normal and hot. AC wasn't blowing any hot air, just straight cold. So I did some research and figured out there was a lot of air in the coolant. So get this started. When you're wanting to bleed the lines, your coolant lines, always crank it up to max heat. This AC button will sneak up on you. Right there. Make sure that's off. And just always crank your heat when you're bleeding. That way it goes through the heater core. Get all those bubbles out. So, now we play the waiting game. Let it heat up. when it gets warmed up, we're gonna rev it a little bit, maybe to like 1500 for a little bit, just to try to squeeze those air bubbles, really force those air bubbles out into that opening where we can bleed it. And I'll show you what that looks like if it needs bled. I got the temperature down to normal. The heat kind of works a little bit. Something like this will work. Pretty big Phillips. Gonna be working on that thing next. That's the next video. I just bought it from a dealership. Went to take it home and spewing oil out from a part in the valve cover. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. So also, if you guys are interested, I have another channel called Haphazard Studio. I'll post it right here. It's all about streaming and gaming, because that's another one of my hobbies. So I got a couple videos on there if you guys want to check them out. And if you like this kind of content, I'm gonna make them a little more. Try to. So just hit that like if you like it. Subscribe if you want to see more. Helps out the channel. I'll do this before it gets warm. Crack that open. Not a bad car. We put a wing on it. Tires. The last person who bought it kind of botched the rear alignment. For some reason, we took it to get inspected and it had a bunch of welds on the subframe. Tires are kind of like that a little bit, so really wears out the tires. That's like a $800 fix if you do it yourself. We priced it at a shop. It's like $2,300. It's going up a little bit. Last time I started it, before bleeding it, it didn't take long to come up to normal temp, which is not ideal. You want it to slowly rise up to normal. I think it's warmed up enough, we can go ahead and rev it. Try to force those air bubbles out. Well, of course you want the thermostat to open up and go through the system. See, it's so touchy to rev. I'll show you where I'm revving it to. About 1,500 to 2,000 on. Go ahead and check it once. You see some of that smoke that's coming from when the coolant kind of dripped on the manifold and all that, the exhaust. But that's not smoke we're worried about. We'll still wait. That wasn't a bunch of air bubbles, which I'm not worried about, but we will still wait until that thermostat opens to see if we can get any more out. Like I said, I've already done this, so I don't need, I'm just double checking it. I don't need to bleed a whole bunch out. Just trying to get what might be left. you can see the tip gauge right there. Just about normal. Oh yeah, that's some nice heat. That's a good sign. Lets you know that you're making progress and getting most of those bubbles out of the system. So, I think the thermostat's opening up. Check it one more time. Oh yeah, we're golden. This is how I lost a lot of coolant earlier. Kept bleeding that valve and a lot of coolant just seeped out. So it's kind of, gotta wait for it to cool down, add more coolant, and double check it. And that's where we are at. Well, we are good to go. That's it for this video. That is how I bled the air from the coolant in an 05 350Z. If you're having the same issue, you now know how to bleed a 350Z. Like I said, symptoms were getting hot, not really overheating. AC or heat is not the best. Like, heat was blowing, absolutely freezing heat. So those were the two symptoms that I have known. Did some research, and it was a lot of air in your coolant lines. Alright, that is it for this video. Again, if you like gaming content, check out my channel right here, Haphazard Studios. I've been posting almost every day. Might skip some days, but there is gaming content on there. If you want to go check them out, that would do me a favor. If you like this video, like it. If you want to see more, subscribe. Thanks for watching.